Everyone, welcome to my channel. So today we are having a talky video about roles with males and females in the 50s and 60s and how that correlates to Elvis and Priscilla and to Elvis and women, or men and women in general in the 50s and 60s. And I got this idea from Sally Hodel, who is an amazing writer and wrote Destined to Die Young. Now, she put up a Facebook post, which was just amazing. It just blew my mind. It was absolutely wonderful. And I asked Sally if I could mention her post in my video, and she said yes, because she's such a gracious lady and she wants to get the message out there. And this is that the difference between women and men, their roles, how they were in the 50s and 60s to today. And so when you're going and looking at sensationalist headlines from so many different outlets, you've got them in the Daily Mail, you've got them in the Times, you've got them in the Guardian. They used to be, back in the day, sensationalists in the National Enquirer. Everyone knew about them, and you would have a laugh at, oh, that's a giggle, but you knew it wasn't real. Nowadays you're getting it in such reputed sources that then people are questioning and thinking, is this real? Is this something that is true? And you're getting the headlines such as groomer, predator, and dark and dangerous. These headlines have been bandied around quite a lot recently after a documentary and a film being released. Both of these have added into this whole thing about grooming and manipulation and such like. And what Sally was trying to say is, if you've got your 2023 glasses and you put them on and look back into 1950s and 60s men and women, you will completely judge them. But if you take those glasses off and look at the 1950s and 60s as something that was different, something that was, it was the sign of the times. So Elvis was a man of his time, and Priscilla was a woman of her time. And lots of other men and women were the same. It was a majority because it was a cultural phenomenon. It's obviously every generation, every year will change and evolve. But the 50s and 60s, right up until the 70s, is when you see the evolvement. So Sally's just talking about that and then making the argument of, have a look at the adverts. Have a look at things that were selling items within America. And I'm putting up some pictures now, and look at that. So this is, even a woman can do it. So yeah, you can see clearly that it was a different world that people were living in back then to now. And so when you bandy around words such as groomer, manipulator, predator, then you are doing a disservice to people within that time period. And so if you're going in there without that knowledge or without that thought, then you are, and you're only looking at it from 2023 eyes, then you're going to be severely disappointed in those human beings that are on the screen or that people are talking about. And that is because female roles and male roles were completely different back in the day. And in the 50s and 60s, men had the breadwinning role. They were the head of the family. They were the head of the household. And females would be the listeners. They would be the carers at home. They would look after the home. And adverts, journals, magazines of the time would all be catered for male and females. So, for example, a female would be leaving school back in the 50s and 60s with the thought of having a family. Leaving school, getting married, having a family. A man would be thinking, right, what wife am I going to have? What qualities is my wife going to have? And they would be more inclined to give their likes, their dislikes, and their desires. And women would maybe fall in line with that, with what the husband was saying, because it was a family unit. You can just take it goes back forever that a woman takes on the male's name. So I took on my husband's name. I let go of my family name and took my husband's name. It's right in our face, the traditions from the past that have not gone. Some of them have not gone. So for example, that tradition of taking on the husband's name has not disappeared, and people still do it. And yet they're not thinking that that is actually, if you really sit and think about it, and if you were to be a complete feminist movement, you'd think, oh my goodness, we're letting go of my name and becoming a different person. And now I'm part of this new family. So yeah, these traditions are still coming with us. But back in the 50s and 60s, to judge Elvis, to judge Priscilla, to judge others because of their life choices, as in their gender roles at the time, and calling him a groomer, is very, very unfair, when the majority of men in the 50s and 60s would have been thinking exactly the same thing, and would be doing exactly the same thing. They would expect their wife to be at home. They would expect them to be the ones who stay home to cook dinner or to look after the children. They would be expected to take a blind eye to certain indiscretions, and that was just the thing. And a woman would have been trained from a younger age and in school to be prepared for this, and to be prepared for the man, and to kind of fall in line with what a male would have said. So all of us in 2023 would be appalled at some of the things that happened in the 50s and 60s that was considered normal. Other things I think have stayed, because I know a lot of women who prepare dinner, still look after the children, do all the cleaning, the housework. And I think what's happened is women have tried to have it all, but actually just do everything. So some women do. But we have a choice now. So I like to look after my husband. I like to make sure that things are done for when he comes home and such like. But that's my choice. Whereas in the 50s and 60s, it would have maybe not been a choice. It would have been the gender role that was normal for the time. And so what Sally kind of is saying is very unfair to judge a person who is very much like many of his peers. Of course, there will be the minority who were maybe progressive, but in the majority, they would have all been quite similar. And then you have to take into consideration celebrity, ego, intense fame, coming from intense poverty into richness, expectations, because Elvis had high expectations for everybody in his group, not just for the females, and he had high expectations on himself. 1,000,000%. He never ever came downstairs not dressed, and so he would expect that from others. So if you're going into a movie or you're watching something and there's mention, or you see a sensationalist headline, try and put those things and thoughts in your mind that it was a different time. The proof is in the pudding. You've seen some of the ads that I've put on over here. The proof is out there to show you that times were different, and that men, and Elvis was a man of his era, and to judge him on that part and that aspect is very, very unfair, because then you'd be judging a whole societal norm, which it's done, it's in the past, and we've evolved and learned. And Sally goes on to mention as well that you can see the involvement within Elvis's life. And I thought that was phenomenal. I just thought, yes, you can see it, because I've shouted from the rooftops how many times, I can't tell you. But look at her black hair, look at her wearing prints in Hawaii, and oh my goodness, she's so like different to what she was in the 60s. Look at Linda. Linda was a free spirit and wore what she wanted. Ginger wore what she wanted, done what she wanted. Elvis was so free, he let Linda cut his hair. Like, do you know, little things like that send me crazy, because I think Elvis let a person who hasn't got hairdressing skills cut his hair, because he just was so chilled in certain aspects of life. And so I've always thought, well, how is everybody talking about this grooming thing? I just don't get it. And then when Sally brought it up, that you can see the progression, and it's true, because guess what? Elvis was evolving. Wow, mystical moment. Elvis evolved, and so did Priscilla evolve. They all evolved. People do. So the 50s norms, the 60s norms, and then as we progress into the 70s, you can see that Priscilla is getting her own way. She's wearing her hair in a certain way. It's not the way it used to be. So I can imagine in the 50s and 60s, Elvis is saying, like, how men were in those days. Well, I prefer this, I like that, because men were encouraged to give their likes and their dislikes, and women were encouraged to listen. Whereas as time goes on and the whole of the country and the whole of the world is evolving in the 70s, after free love and such like, that women are getting more of a chance to talk. Men are letting women talk a little bit more. And so you can see that evolvement, because you see it with Elvis and Linda. You see it with Elvis and Ginger. And I think poor Elvis, he didn't have the time to evolve as a human being even further. Because I think as a 50-year-old man, 60-year-old man looking back, he would have evolved even further and became an even different, a more different person, a human being, because that's what we have, that's what we do. So, but also Elvis, like Sally ends it with, Elvis is a big, massive part of Americana. He is the American dream. He's the person that is thought of in those ways. And if you're going to judge somebody who is maybe the epitome of America in 1950s and 60s and values and how they interact as a man in that masculine way, then it doesn't make sense. You're kind of having a go at the whole cultural phenomenon, the whole part of the past. And these things happened. This was the norm of the time. And we can't sit here and say it was wrong because that was right at that time. Now, we wouldn't want it for ourselves just now because we have evolved as a society and we've changed. So, yeah, I thought it was just an amazing piece of writing from Sally, and it just made me want to go further and look. So I found this journal from 1955. We're going to look at some of, I think it's 18, okay? So it's 18 ways in which you look after your man in the 1955 journal. And so now I hope you enjoy this. And when you listen to how we should be in 1955, I want you guys to think about, or tell a friend, or send somebody over who is maybe judged Elvis for things that we've just talked about, to then have a look at this and then think, should I judge Elvis actually? So yeah, we're going to look at Good Housekeeping from 1955. So I hope you enjoy that part. That's what we're going to end. So I'll continue on with this video and have a look at the 18 suggestions in the 1955 journal. I hope you enjoy. Okay, so before we start this video, this is Afterthought Michelle. Disclaimer, nobody in this video, me, is saying that Elvis was a perfect human being and didn't have flaws. I am not putting him into a godlike structure or putting him on a pedestal. I understand that he had flaws, tempers, and that everybody does in this world. Everybody does. We're all human beings. I certainly have a temper, and my husband certainly does. So I won't judge on that. And I'm not judging on Priscilla and saying that what she said was not true. I am making this video to deal with some of the sensational headlines that I have seen and I think are wrong. And yeah, continue with the video. Enjoy. In May 1955, Housekeeping Monthly published an article entitled The Good Wife's Guide, detailing all the ways that a wife should act and how best she can be a partner to her husband and mother to her children. It may feel a little strange to accept these rules today, but it remains so interesting to see how society once behaved. So let's see, we've got number 1, have dinner ready. Plan ahead, even the night before, to have a delicious meal ready on time for his return. This is a way of letting him know that you have been thinking about him and are concerned about his needs. Oh, number 2, most men are hungry when they come home, and the prospect of a good meal, especially his favourite dish, is part of the warm welcome needed. Number 3, prepare yourself. Take 15 minutes to rest so you'll be refreshed when he arrives. Touch up your makeup, put a ribbon in your hair, and be fresh looking. He has just been with a lot of work-weary people. 4, be a little gay, so happy, and a little more interesting for him. His boring day may need a lift, and one of the duties is to provide it. Number 5, clear away the clutter. Make one last trip through the main part of the house just before your husband arrives. Gather up school books, toys, papers, etc., and then run a dustcloth over the tables. Number 6, over the cooler months of the year, you should prepare and light a fire for him to unwind by. Your husband will feel he has reached a haven of rest and order, and it will give you a lift too. After all, catering for his comfort will provide you with an immense personal satisfaction. Number 7, prepare the children. Take a few minutes to wash the children's hands and faces if they're small. comb their hair, and if necessary, change their clothes. Number 8. Children are little treasures and he would like to see them play in the park. Minimise all noise. At the time of his arrival, eliminate all noise of the washer, dryer or vacuum. Try to encourage the children to be quiet. Number 9. Be happy to see him. Free him with a warm smile and show sincerity in your desire to please him, and listen to him. Number 10. You may have a dozen important things to tell him, but the moment of his first arrival is not the time. Let him talk first. Remember, his topics of conversation are more important than yours. Number 11. Make the evening his. Never complain if he comes home late or goes out to dinner or other places of entertainment without you. Instead, try to understand his world of strain and pressure, and his very real need to be at home and relax. 12. Your goal. Try to make sure your home is a place of peace, order and tranquility, where your husband can renew himself in body and spirit. 13. Don't greet him with complaints and problems. 14. Don't complain if he's late home for dinner or even if he stays all night. Count this as minor compared to what he might have gone through the day. 15. Make him comfortable. Have him lean back in a comfortable chair or have him lie down in the bedroom. Have a cool or warm drink ready for him. 16. Arrange his pillow and offer to take off his shoes. Speak in a low, soothing and pleasant voice. 17. Don't ask him questions about his actions or question his judgment of integrity. Remember, he is the master of the house and as such will always exercise his will with fairness and truthfulness. You have no right to question him. 18. A good wife always knows her place. And there you have it. That is a journal from 1955 in Good Housekeeping. So it's clear. It's right there of what people would have expected in 1955 from a wife. So the male would have expected this. The female would have been taught how to do this. And if you look back from our eyes, where we can't see that, we don't know that whole aspect of life. If you look back and look at that, and then you look at Priscilla's story and Elvis's story, you can see there is that thread running through where a man has this role and the female has their role. And it can help to understand. Now, maybe you would never want to be in that situation, but you were not born in the 50s or the 60s. You were born just now. So you cannot ever fully understand how anybody would have taken on any of these roles in that time. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed Sally Hodell's words. She really does floor me. Her intelligence is beyond, and her protection of Elvis and the facts is just phenomenal. And I think we could all learn a few things from Sally. And I hope you enjoyed the 1955 Good Housekeeping article, which I think opens our eyes to the 1950s norms and how they are so different to today and cannot be judged by 2023 eyes. So thank you so much for joining me. Take care of yourself and put all your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And thank you so much. Take care of yourself and I'll see you on another. Bye everyone.